That was so badass.
Thanks, man.
Before I
I
say
was on an
anything,
expedition in Africa.
yeah.
Exactly.
Before I say anything about Deck and Welcome to Deck, I'll say that. But I do have to say this. I hung out with my buddy Rick Stojak at PASIC last year, and we went to Schlagworks, and Rick's got more rhythm in his little finger than I got in my whole body. That dude is always walking around banging out. I'm like, damn, dude, that's badass. I love Rick Stojak. So there you go. I had to say it. Everybody, welcome to Drummers Education Connection. I'm Bart Robley, and I am here with three amazing individuals who I consider dear friends of mine in the Bay Area. Jeremy Steinkohler.
What's up, everybody?
Down in San Diego, the Rhythm Monster. I gotta say it. I know that's the name of an app, but come on, Rick Stojak.
Thank you, Bart.
You're very welcome. And down in Tucson, Arizona, my dear friend Chip Ritter.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah.
Chip,
So anyway,
yeah.
welcome to Deck. Today, guys, we're going to be talking about is keeping the peace within a band dynamic. And I think this applies to band dynamic. I think it applies to a podcast, the four of us. I think it applies to life. I think it's a really cool topic, and it's a lot of fun, and it's something that young musicians a lot of times kind of forget about when they're wanting to be in a band. Keeping the peace, keeping the band together, that can be an incredible challenge. Now, as we always do, before we get started with Deck today, we're going to do what we always do, and that's good things. It's a little something that's in drumming, outside of drumming, around drumming, whatever, that is good in our lives as individuals. I know I got some cool things happening, but we're going to throw it down to Chip in Tucson. What you got going on, bud?
Hey, man, this has nothing to do with drumming, but my late friend Kelly Knopp, who was my best friend for years, passed away a year and a half ago. His dying wish was he wanted to have a bench put on the east side of the desert with a little plaque that said, in honor of Kelly Knopp, one cool dude. That's what he wanted. And so I've gone the legal route because he was a judge. He wouldn't want me to just go vandalize a bench and then lay it out there. But we went the legal route and went through the hoops and the politics and the bureaucracy that it takes. And they are on the Desert Ecology Trail east of Tucson on the Saguaro National Monument, fully sponsored, fully legal. It's going to say loving memory of Kelly C. Knopp on a rock on a brass plate. And the benches, we've donated 8 benches in his honor.
Oh,
That's nice.
Our friends of Kelly Knopp, people that knew him and loved him. There were 300 people at his celebration of life ceremony.
wow.
So we're going to get the word out once that rock is up there, and we're going to tell everybody we're going to go out there and have a little moment for him. And it just makes my heart smile to see that come full circle and finally be accomplished. So that's my good thing.
Oh, that's great. That's a great thing, Chip.
That's amazing,
Beautiful.
Chip.
Man,
Way to
Chip.
go, bud.
You're always making a positive difference in this world, Chip Ritter.
Well, you would know,
Yeah.
Mr. Positive Energy Hand Grenade.
Speaking of the positive energy hand grenade, Rick Stojak, what you got going on?
My good thing is you three guys. You guys are the best. We just had a planning meeting for our Deck Day.
For our
That
what?
was my good thing. Yep. We'll have to tell them all about Deck Day, but
Deck Day?
how well we work together is my good thing. We just did this hour-long strategizing meeting, and it was just smooth and easy and fun, and everybody's contributing ideas, and it's just nice to be cooperative and creative and have this community. And we appreciate all you people who watch us because you're part of that community. So
Yep.
that's my good
Fred
thing. What about you,
Fisher's
Jeremy?
awesome.
Looking at your way, Fred Fisher, Peter Retzloff, Jim
Look at that.
Royal, David Betts.
Come
All
on.
you guys.
Oh my goodness.
My good thing, I've mentioned the last couple of weeks that my son Evan has got this GoFundMe going for his album project, and he's hoping to raise $10,000, and he is at just about $8,000 right now.
Yo, yeah.
Pretty rad.
Woo!
I just stuck the link in there if you guys want to check it out. Even if you're don't want to donate, check out the video because it's badass. It's just really cool to see the next generation carrying the torch and playing such great music. That's my good thing.
Cool.
There's
man.
some hope out there.
Yeah.
How about you, Bart?
I got three really short good things. Number one, Rick and I love coffee, and I got the
Yeah.
most cool new coffee cup.
Whoa.
Is that not the coolest thing in the world? I like a good coffee
Whoa.
mug, and this is weird. It's got like this satiny kind of thing. I really like this coffee mug, so that's my one good thing. Second good thing, we leave on tour again tomorrow to wrap up this tour that we've been on. We got another week and a half out, and I'm going to be playing my new Todd Zuckerman Red Light Crashes that I got when I got home at 19 and a 22. And man, you've got to. They're amazing. They're amazing. They're amazing. I can't wait to do that because everybody needs a 22-inch crash cymbal, baby. Come on. Yeah.
Guys, look at Fred's good thing real quick.
What? Yeah, hey,
Fred
that's a
said-
good
That's
thing.
it.
Fred
My good
says-
thing is I've only missed one live deck show in over a year.
Oh, Fred,
That's
you're
awesome.
the best. And Fred's been part of the deck community and been on the show. And then my
Yeah.
last good thing is my wife is always telling me that I need a hobby because all I do is drum, or I go on tour with the drums, or I talk about drums, or I'm on deck talking about drums, or I buy a drum, or I do something fixing a drum, something to do with drums. And I don't really have a hobby. I don't have time for a hobby because I'm too busy drumming, which we all know is not a hobby. It's a way to make a living. I grew up on a cattle ranch, and I've been doing that kind of stuff my whole life. And last week I bought a horse.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait. Did you just say yeah?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up on the back of a horse, and I actually, the truth be told, it was Leah's 60th birthday present that is a few months late because her 60th birthday was last year, and she doesn't mind me telling that. I got it for her. It's her horse, but I tell you what, there's an old saying that there's nothing as good for the inside of a man as the outside of a horse. And this is our second horse that we've owned since she and I've been together. And but it's been about 25 years since we've had a horse. And so I've been going over there and working on the horse stable and working on this and doing stuff with the horse. And it just brings me back to my childhood. And it's just, oh my God, the fresh air and the smell of horse poop, and it's just awesome. I love it. So yeah, so we got a horse, and he's beautiful. He is a 9-year-old Palomino paint quarter horse, and he's beautiful. And his name's Buttercup. He's about 14.5 tall, and just the most mellow dude you ever want to meet in your life.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Congratulations. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. So, yeah, he's a nice addition to the Robley crew.
You know, you posted a Facebook post about it, and I thought it was a joke.
No, it's for real.
No, I understand, but like,
Yeah, he
I was
posted
like,
a picture of the horse, and I posted a comment and said, "Why the long face?"
He really is, man. He's
That's
a
amazing.
super. Yeah, it's a super. And if anybody's ever been around horses or ridden horses or anything like that, I mean, some horses are, man, they're fireballs. And this guy, he's just as mellow as can be. I went over there this morning and worked on his stall. And he's like a puppy dog. He walks up, he puts his head on your shoulder. He's chewing on some, hey, man, what's happening? And he's just a gentle giant and just a sweetheart of a soul. And I'm a big animal person, and my wife, if I love animals, my wife will go to her death for animals. So it's a really cool, very positive thing. It's a lot of fun. So
like father, like son.
Good for you. Good for you.
Buttercup Ropley.
Buttercup Robley.
The apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
I don't know about that. Well, speaking of which, so what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be talking about keeping the peace within a band within the dynamic of a band. Because, I said this before we got on the podcast today. Rolling Stone magazine did a expose years ago, and they were saying the average life expectancy of a band is 11 months, right? So that tells me there's 11 months that you can be around a group of people before somebody wants to just go postal. I mean, it's not an easy thing to keep a band together. And I think a big part of it is just kind of like we were saying here, just kind of keeping peace and having a conversation and having things work out because you are getting along. And how do you go about doing that? Because we see each other once a week on a podcast, a little bit easier to do. But when you're living with somebody, like literally living with the guys and the girls in the band, man, it's a challenge. So how do you do that? How do you go about keeping that together? Now, Jeremy, I know you have a couple of long-term bands that you've worked with, that you've been in for quite some time. Rick, yourself as well. Chip, you've been in a lot of bands. Jeremy, what do you do to keep the peace within a band dynamic? Give me some ideas that you do.
I don't know. That's why I was tuning into this episode, was to find out.
I do it by stirring the pot a little bit.
Boy, it's a really good topic. It's a really good question, and it's many multifaceted,
Very.
Because I think for everyone to be happy in the group relationship, everyone needs to feel seen and heard, and musically and otherwise. And so, sort of having a good way to talk about stuff is really important. Communication, I think, is one of the key ingredients to keeping the band together. It's just like a relationship. It's multiple relationships, and invariably, there's somebody who has a different idea about stuff, and, or isn't pulling their weight or isn't showing up on time. And, you got to have those hard conversations sometimes. And I think checking in every so often is a good thing to do, rather than just making assumptions about that everything's always copacetic, and that everyone's cool with their roles. Well, maybe not, and what is the structure of the band? Is it Bart's band and we're playing in Bart's band? Okay. That's a different kind of animal than we're in a band together called the deck band.
Yeah.
Right. And my experience has been that a lot of bands, I see this with students a lot, who get frustrated and talk to me about the challenges they're facing interpersonally in their bands. My experience has been that a lot of bands get together without having those conversations from the get-go about what is the structure of the band, what are the expectations, whose band is it? Is there a creative force? If one person's writing most of the songs, is it their band? Are they making the decisions? And those conversations aren't easy to have, and they often don't happen. And that can often lead to, hurt feelings and missed expectations and frustrations. And, I think the more clear you can be in the beginning about what is, what are the expectations? What is the structure of the band? Is everybody on equal footing? The better you're going to be off moving forward.
That's incredibly good advice. Kind of in the almost, so what you're saying, like from the get-go, okay, let's have this conversation about this is your band and you're leading the way, or this is our band and we all have an equal say in it.
Especially if a band's been together for a while and they're hiring a new drummer, and I'm auditioning and like, okay, yeah, musically, the audition went great. Okay, you're in the band. Okay, can I talk up in rehearsals about what I think should be happening with this song, or is this your song and I'm just here to play the drums?
Right.
We just need to clarify one thing for everybody.
Mhm.
The leader of the band is the drummer.
Why they call
Only
it the
kidding.
throne.
Only kidding.
That's why they call it the throne.
That's right. That's right, Chip.
Rick, what about you? What have you done to keep the peace in a band, especially because you're in a band with your brother? So you're in a band with a family member. There could be a sibling rivalry there. What did you do? How did you keep it together?
Well, in that band, we had a clear leader. The leader was my brother, and it was his band. He was Robert B. Wild. The band was B. Wild. He wrote a good part of the music, and we just kind of found that in general, if there wasn't a leader, it could just be really, really chaotic.
Yeah.
And so there were pros and cons to having this. And it's really, really an awesome responsibility to be a band leader, because you really have to take into account people's feelings and their desires and what their goals are as well. often I remember time after time we'd be working on a song, and Robert would say, okay, to the keyboard player, just hold down this chord. And this bass player just hold this one note, and then you guys just sing that one note, and it wouldn't sound like anything. And everyone's like, man, no, man, Robert, I want to rip. I got this cool bass line in mind. And then Robert would give him the look and just try this. Just try this. So he always had to be referee and just say, just try it. Just try it. And then he would throw one note on the guitar over everything they were doing. And it just sounded like poetry.
Oh, yeah.
And otherwise it would have just been like a shooting gallery where everyone is just like trying to force out as many notes as they possibly could. So, but that's tricky though, because if you're the band leader, how are you going to split the money? And I really have to go with what Jeremy's saying, that there needs to be agreements, like detailed agreements. And I do believe in contracts too, or at least written down agreements about the structure. With Barnyard Ballers, here was a situation that we had. We were just a band. Everybody put in the investment in the band. We all had to pay for rehearsal, right? If we were going on the road, we all would pay for the expense of the vehicle and the gas, and we would all split the money. And the recordings, everybody paid for the studio time for the recordings, and we'd split all the money. But the guitarist wrote the majority of the music. And then he and the guitarist and the singer didn't get along well at all. They ended up like hating each other, actually, sadly. And so the guitarist is like, well, that's it. I'm done. The band's over. And we're all looking at each other saying, dude, we have a tour. We've already booked a tour. We've got to perform this tour. It's a European tour. And he's like, nope, I'm done. I can't make it. And so we just threw in a sub. We had to do it. And that started a war. He was like, what? You guys are stealing my music. We're like, no, we're not stealing your music. We're just keeping the band together. We had said we were going to always keep the band together. We at least had that verbal agreement. But the guy left, and he had just hurt him so bad that we would play live without him. And then we're like, well, come on back. But it was too late. So he just hates the singer so much. But he felt that it was his band because he wrote the music. So I don't have the answer of how it should have gone, other than we should have written it down. We should have agreed. What if someone wants to leave? What's going to happen with the name of the band? Right. So I think agreements and contracts are a really, really, really good idea. Just clarify everything so everybody is on the same page.
Right.
So that's great. That's great advice.
Yeah. So
Chip, what about you? I know you. This is I agree with Jeremy. Ditto. He stole my cha-cha. This keeping the peace with the band. For me, but now that I know, as far as my experience has gone in over 40 years of playing and touring and all that, now I think differently than I did before. I've got a different, broader view. I've got a little Google Earth scale back look at the big picture view about bands than I did have before. I've been in about 20 bands over my lifetime, and keeping the peace within a band would, for me, it starts with defining what the peace within a band looks like. What is the goal of, what are our expectations? And you guys already hit on a lot of things I was going to say. And I was also going to say, keeping the peace within a band involves three things: communication, and communication. Constant communication and willingness to talk. The ability to talk. Now, if we're talking, this is also a critical difference is if it's Long John Hunter's band and it's not a democracy, and that going in, that's a whole different podcast. Now, what I assumed with keeping the peace within a band was you're talking about equal members to keep the peace with. That's what I assumed. Right. But the whole thing with being in a band that has a leader it comes down to the dynamic of, okay, that leader is now, I'm the one, I'm going to go to him and talk to him, but I'm also going to talk to so-and-so if I've got a problem with so-and-so. Like my first tour was through Canada. We were going through the entire country. We went up through Detroit, Chicago, then went up to Canada, went through every section in Canada that you can play at that had venues that they were booked. And as soon as I got in the van, the sax player took his sock off and started clipping his toenails. And I'm like, is this what I'm going to be experiencing over the next 2 months of my life?
This wasn't in the brochure.
If one of those things falls into my Big Mac meal, I'm going to. Okay, so you got a guy like the bass player. I'm rooming with the bass player in the first tour, and he's completely drunk out of his gourd, and sloppy drunk and snoring, and I can't sleep, and I'm wondering what my career is going to look like. How am I going to live through this? I've got to be able to find a way to express to him that that's not okay with me in a sober setting, and not while he was drunk, but to communicate that with him first before bringing it to Long John. I mean, I learned that in another band I was in, that it was a dictatorship, a leader that said, "These are my rules. This is how it's going to be. You get paid this, and that's what I expect." So, but with bands that are mutual 4-way splits, one of my first bands I started called 22 Black was a 4-way split. I said, we're publishing, our writing, everything's going to be split 4 ways. It's going to be a full democracy. And the way that we pulled that off was having a meeting before we ever played a note, talking about what this is going to look like, what we all want it to be, things and ways that we could go about doing that. And basically we came up with a manifesto. We came up with a group mission statement. You know what I mean? I know it sounds really kind of anal, but that was the most successful group effort that I've ever been involved with, because we established what peace within the band looked like before we got going. You know what I mean? And it was also helpful that we had a lot of experience behind us before we started. So I wish I would have been able to see this episode when I started my career. It probably would have helped me avoid many pitfalls. That's my first take on this subject.
Well said, Chip.
Yeah. Yeah.
Excellent.
I want to echo everything that you guys said. I mean, on all fronts. And I do believe Fred Fisher said communication is key. I think that is a huge part of it. And believe me, I mean, I have so many stories of, things and musicians and stuff that have come and gone over the years. But my big thing, and we actually had a podcast on this, is something that you mentioned, Rick, and that is leadership is everything. And I really firmly believe that if you have a band where one person is leading most everything up, right? They're leading this band. They are, they're writing the songs. They're doing all the things that make the band work. I think it's incredibly important for that person to take on the role of the leader, at every aspect. Leadership is everything. It really is. I think communication is incredibly, incredibly important. And then I also think the way that works for me, like Chip, when you're talking about the guy trimming his toenails. I mean, I get that because of what I'm about to say now. That is, I think that being in a band, we've all discussed how it's taken for granted that you can play your instrument. You're in the band for a reason. You got the gig because you can play. Okay, and we've said this a million times. It's all about the hang. Can I hang with this 2, 3, 4, 5 people? So in a nutshell, I think the simplest way I can put it is be a good roommate You know, be a good roommate. I'm moving my computer here because I got to plug it in during the show. Be a good roommate. You know, be somebody that you would want to live with, because again, you're going to have to live with these people. I spend a lot of time on the road with the band. We always rent an Airbnb when we're not provided hotel rooms, and we hub out of the Airbnb. We always get a really big house, so everybody has their own space, everybody has their own room. After this many years of being together, I think that that's phenomenally important to be able to find.
Luxury.
It's a very much a luxury, and believe me, there's been many years where it wasn't that way. You're rooming up with 2 people, 3 people, whatever. Having your own space is imperative. And even if you are rooming with somebody, okay, I'm going to have my own space. I'm going to leave and go over to that coffee shop over there with my laptop when on a day off and do my thing, finding your own space. And again, even if you're not living in an Airbnb, if you're living in a bus together, if you're living in a van together, don't trim your freaking toenails while somebody's eating a Big Mac. You know?
That's a heavy, you know. The other thing I feel compelled to say, there's a band, whether it's got a leader or not, you're dealing with interpersonal relationships.
Yeah.
This is a relationship topic. And that's right. There's 12-step groups that are dedicated to improving relationships with humans. And that's a good starting point. And things that I've gone through step programs and learned are ways of, there's ways of communicating. When you get let me just get to the point that I was in, by the second year I was with Long John on tour with the band, he hired our whole band. So I was hired by Long John, but the band was there and we had our guitar player leader, and I was the one selling the CDs, driving the van, doing the website. Man, I was the guy basically hucking and jiving. I would go to these festivals and I would get the contact number of the promoter so we could make sure that we stayed in touch with who ran the gig and who got the gig and blah, 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 blah. And as soon as I got the contact information, I would give it to my band's leader and say, hey, I got so-and-so from the Canadian Blues Festival or the Chicago Blues Festival, the main promoter guy that can hook us up if something ever happened to Long John or whatever, and we were on our own. You know what I mean? I was always career-minded about the band. Assuming that this guy was the leader of the band, and slowly but surely, this one individual stopped doing things that led me to believe that he was on the same career-minded path that I wanted to be on. Yeah. And we had a difference of opinion and somewhat of a falling out. That taught me that the communication is so critical, because if I had expressed my intent, if I was able to further communicate what I had expected to him in the beginning, it would have avoided all of that drama and all of that heartache. You know what I mean? Just say, hey guys, here's where I want our band to end up. Here's what the goal for me is. What do you think your goals are? And let's talk about it and talk about these expectations, because, you know, resentment breeds. I mean, you get angry at somebody, but you don't want to rock the boat. You're starting to walk on eggshells. Next thing you know, you're walking on eggshells and you're resenting that person, and you're destroying the moments of time that you otherwise would have had a great time loving your life, playing music for money. I mean, it's the best thing in the world. And I look back on some of those times, and if I do have any regrets, most of my regrets were not speaking up when the initial incident happened and taking the bit in my mouth and saying at the appropriate time, not on stage, but, you know, on a down day, saying, hey, approaching and say, hey, you know what? When you trim your toenails in the van next to me, I feel right, using I statements and stuff that I feel unnerved by that. It's a little inappropriate and I don't appreciate it. And I was just wondering if you could possibly trim your toenails when you're in your hotel room, you know, things like that. Or the fact that, one last thing, while I still have it in my brain, if you don't mind, I know I'm going long.
No, go.
But one of the situations with me driving the van all the time and selling all the CDs, I got to a point where I resented the bass player who was snoring and drunk all the time.
Mhm.
And I talked to the leader. I talked to Long John about it, and he talked to me, told me to go to my leader of the band. So I went to the leader of the band. I said, "Hey man, I've talked to this guy. I've done everything I can. He's still behaving like this, which is making my life not okay. It's not okay for me to deal with some of the things that he's doing. It's unacceptable. And I've done my best to express that to his face. And now I'm asking you for help." And he agreed that I would get, if I kept driving the van and selling CDs, I got my own room. And that was a deal we made. And so I got my own room. But guess what happened? The rest of the band started to get resentful that Chip's in his own room. How come Chips gets his own room? You know what I mean? This whole thing. And that it kind of ended up being a part of the stew that ended up culminating in me just deciding to leave and go on to other opportunities, especially when Mr. Boogie Woogie offered me a European tour with him. I just jumped on the chance and said, okay, see you guys. You know, see you guys. It was just, I don't know. I found it unacceptable, but could I have avoided that? Yeah. By communication, we probably could have avoided all of that if we were willing to step up and talk like men, face to face, honest to honest. You know, confrontation is hard for anybody, and I don't like it. But sometimes, you know, you have to step up and say what you really feel in your heart, and saying that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, do I risk getting that other person mad at me? Yeah, but you know what? If they're real friends of mine, they'll understand in time that I had to say what was on my mind.
There it is. I think we've all kind of agreed that meetings and communication are a big deal. And
Yeah.
the start, I think you hit on something really, really important, Chip, right away. What are your goals? Do the goals line up?
Bless
So
you.
the conversations need to happen. Like, what is your goal? I want to make a living off of this. Or maybe another person is like, no, I just want this as my side thing. Well, if those things don't match up, then we already have a problem and we should reconsider playing with each other. Or
Yes.
I want to gig once a week, or I want to gig 5 times a week. You know, what is your goal? Those, I mean, you could jam with someone, and I think we jam with someone and it works out. We've got that communication. So people just assume you're on the same page and have the same goals. So don't assume, just really, really clarify with everybody. And I think band meetings always save the day. And so I was curious about some thoughts. I'll kick it off. Like, just like on band meetings, things that you think that should be discussed. And so one of them I think that should be discussed is if you can't make the gig, are you willing to have a substitute? So I think
Yeah.
that's a good topic. Another topic is who's going to drive to the gig? Is there a system? Do we rotate? You drive one gig, you drive one gig, or does one person say, hey, I want to drive, I'm the driver, that's what I like to do, and I promise to be sober? So who's going to work the merch booth if the band has to do it? How is this all divvied up? So those, I'm just curious about you
Yeah.
guys. Like, what things, like
There's-
bullet point things do you think should be on the hit list that a band
Well-
should talk about?
Bullet point things for me, and I'm just going off of what popped into my mind was stage volume, noodling during sound check. When does the band enter the stage? At what time? This stuff was discussed by Long John before we even got in the van. He talked about etiquette, our dress, what we're expected to look like, our sobriety during the performance. You know what I mean? He also talked about hanging out at the bar was a no-no. We were to be with him in a group before the gig. After the gig was over, hang out with whatever you want. But this is a professional entertainment show. And when you hang out, he was like, when you hang out with these people, they start doing this, blah, 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 blah. And then they don't want to pay money to come see you because they know you, or something like that. He used to say. But the main point is what I'm saying, Rick, is my bullet points were like stage volume, who's going to play what, when are we going to do this, and how we're going to present ourselves as a unit.
Those are awesome topics. Those are awesome topics. We had a disagreement at one of the bands. Like, the singer used to love to go out into the crowd, like during the set while he was singing. And others in the band member thought that alienated and made people feel like all freaked out when the singer would jump out and, jump up to the table and start singing. So there's just so many things to talk about. And I think, so what about you guys, Jeremy or Bart? Do you have some bullet point topics that you think should be addressed?
One of the things that I've experienced over the years, there's two things. Number one, and this goes out to any player that gets into a band and they're the new guy or the new girl in a band. Okay. And I've had this happen to me, and it's such a small thing, but it's very annoying. We had a new person in the band for a while and had done no gigs, had not one performance under their belt, hadn't done anything other than come and do the audition. We decided this person was the right person for the gig. And suddenly, okay, well, this is how our band is, and our band's going to do this, and our band's going to do that. And I think we should do this. And hey, our band, this, and our band. And I've been in this group for 15 years, and now all of a sudden it's our band. That's really, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, please. That's just rude. And it's very insulting. I've been busting my ass at this for a long time, and you're all of a sudden it's our band. Come on. And then the other thing and it's taken a long time for, right now, everybody that's in the group has really got their poop in a group. Everybody has their stuff together. And I'm really thankful for that. From the time we get to the gig, and there is a ton of stuff that we carry, from the time we pull up to the gig, park the trailer, load in, and set up and ready to do a sound check, it takes us an hour and a half, The other night we left a gig. It took us 2 hours and 1 minute from the cymbals decaying down to the last song to packing it up, and we're driving away from the gig. We're fast. Everybody pitches in. And I think that that's something that, even if it's not discussed, again, I'm speaking directly to young players who find themselves in a band. When the gig's over, or when you get to the gig, don't just stand around and, hey, how's everybody doing? It's good to see you. Go, get in there and start doing some work. Start bringing the cases in. Start bringing the stuff in. Do your fair share of the work.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse than, 2 people, 3 people grunting and pulling everything into the gig. If you don't have a road crew, you don't have roadies. And one guy's sitting over in the corner with his girlfriend or a couple of his buddies having a cold beer while you're humping. Yeah. Oh, that just
needs to be communicated with.
It does. And think about this. Everything that we're talking about, I go around my elbow to get to my thumb on this one. But if you think about bands in general, and I mean, totally famous bands with famous musicians, household names, whenever they say, well, why did David Lee Roth quit Van Halen? Oh, we had musical differences. There wasn't a musical difference in that band at all. They hated each other's guts. They were young guys. They were young kids. They were full of piss and vinegar, and they're famous, and everybody started just hating everybody because this person got more attention than that person. It's that simple. Bands don't break up because of artistic differences. Bands break up because there's no communication and guys act like children. That's what I think.
I mean, or personal differences. So
yeah.
One of the things I was thinking about as we're talking about this, as we keep coming back to communication being the key to harmony, is what about when the communication isn't good? What about when you have the communication and it doesn't feel like it resolves things, it actually makes things worse?
Yeah, it's possible.
Right? That happens.
It is possible to agree to disagree. I think people tend to forget that, and sometimes
when is it disagree to disagree,
Well, then that's when you go your separate ways.
Right.
That's a great point. At what point do you go your separate way? And that's something that you have to decide in your heart, and you have to be clear with yourself about, does this situation bring me more joy than it takes away, or does it not? Because if it's not a hell yes, it's got to be a hell no. I'm getting too old.
Oh yeah.
Sure, for sure. But that's great, and I agree. But there are years, growing up, or especially if you're thinking, oh, this band maybe make it, where you're making compromises, and at what point is a compromise too much of a compromise? And
yeah.
You're not going to change people. You want to talk to them and be honest and communicate clearly, and hope that people will be respectful and understanding, and like, oh, I didn't realize, that was bothering you. I won't bother you anymore. But if you got a guy who's always, there was a guy in an early band I played in who showed up late all the time, and it's like became a problem. And we talked to him about it, and it didn't change. And eventually it just kind of blew up. There was another guy I played in a band with, and like a small group. We'd play low stakes, gigs, but if we didn't like nail it, he'd say afterwards, like on stage, so that everybody could hear, oh, that didn't go that great, or that wasn't our best, like, it's like, oh, dude, shut up.
Yeah.
What team are you on?
That stuff would drive me crazy,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not easy. Yeah. I mean, and sometimes you're like, oh, I'm in for a penny. We've put all this effort already into the band and the rehearsal, and we've gotten to a certain level of, notoriety or whatever following. But yet you're living with this thorn of a behavior in someone else that's not going to change, and
the sax player in question, that Mr. Toenails, would be on a break out in the parking lot smoking weed, and then consistently late while the band's playing, come up on stage, and that didn't last long. That it took 2 times and he was gone. Gone. And just again, to kick a dead horse with communication, is you have to be aware. If you're starting a band and you see some problems, you have to ask yourself, do I say something now, or when is it appropriate to even say anything? Or as far as confrontation, do you want to deal with it when it shows up or when it blows up?
Yeah, right. Rick, this reminds me of Rick had a gig offer, and he went, and it was like a small little tour, and he went and checked it out and went to the rehearsal, and there was some things going on that just he wasn't feeling.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
He saw the writing on the wall. I was like, you know what? Too old, too smart, know myself too well. This is not the right thing for me.
Exactly. I wasn't afraid to say, no, this doesn't line up for me.
No is a complete sentence.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Very
What'd you say, Chip?
No is a complete sentence.
I've had a situation, and I think it's really easy to, as we're talking here about, like, why bands break up, and I threw that out there. I use David Lee Roth as a name, but there's a million bands that pop into mind. For myself, what I try to do this, and I maybe I don't always succeed at it, but the thing that happens for me is if I'm pointing a finger at you, I got 3 pointing back at me. So looking, it takes, we have to look at ourselves. One has to look at oneself and have some self-reflection. And I know that for me, you guys know me very well. And I'm always like, hey guys, what if we did this? What if we did that? And always kind of, whatever it is that we're trying to do, maybe push it to the next level, or hey, let's do our podcast from here, and maybe we could do this, coming up with all these ideas just, to be successful. Well, I've done the same thing. And in my band, I've been in the Sam Morrison band for coming up on 27 years. And I'm not gonna sit here and say that I haven't stepped on people's toes. I know that I have. I mean, I know that I have. So I think there's this instinctive thing that one also has to have, of being able to look at yourself and pump the brakes and go, well, wait a second here. I need to kind of, take a backseat to some of this stuff. I'm not the guy it's not my band. I'm the drummer in the band, and I'm going to leave this up to, it's the Sam Morrison band. This is Sam's job. I'm going to leave it up to him. It's not my band. It's up to him. And and what I mean by that is I don't want to overstep any boundaries. I don't, and have I ever stepped boundaries? Hell yeah, I've crossed that line many a time. But I have to stop and look at myself. So again, speaking to any young musician, if you have a problem with another musician, a personal problem, whatever, yeah, but also be willing to look at yourself, because, am I the easiest guy in the world to live with? Nope. I wouldn't want to live with me. I'm telling you, I just would.
That's a tall ask for a young musician to look at yourself.
It is. You know what, Chip? You're right. You're right.
My experience, because it's like when I was in the metal band, I'm driving auto parts during the day in this Tucson summer, working part-time here, all for the metal band, all for the songs, all for the dream of becoming a rock star. And I'm coming back to the band house where we live together to save money, and these guys are playing video games.
Yeah.
There's a stack of flyers that hasn't been touched. There's these phone calls that haven't been made. And I remember thinking, like, what do you guys do? What do you guys want to do with your life? Because I'm not going to drive auto parts in Tucson in the summer to help fund the expedition for you to get good at Mario Brothers. I'm just not going. It's hard to look at myself in that situation.
Right.
Oh yeah. No, Chip, I completely agree.
You know what I'm saying, though? It's hard to be self-aware in some contexts when your dreams and your goals are shouting at you and you're just trying to, herd the cats to get them to go in that direction.
And sometimes when I say that, it comes from, that's years of experience to get there. It just really is years of experience and wisdom to get there. And, sometimes it takes almost a lifetime to realize that sometimes it's best to say nothing at all, or like you said, Chip, no is a complete sentence. And it's, that comes with wisdom. That comes with been there, done that, bought the t-shirt. You know what I mean?
Experiences when you've gone to what's that they say about wisdom and experience, or, experience comes from making the wrong choices.
Yeah.
Wisdom comes from the experience. So yeah.
Well, I think a bottom line is to be professional and to be flexible. I don't think you should have any of these conversations while you're still hot and heated.
Yeah.
Go and calm yourself down, get yourself, don't have the argument in the van after the show. Calm down, chill out, be clear-headed, no substance, and approach it professionally, because a band, one form or another, it is a business.
Yeah.
And you're in it because you think you want to be free-flowing and like, I don't want a boss. One way or another, you're going to have a boss. You're going to have to compromise.
Even if that boss ends up being yourself.
Yeah, lots of bands think that they're in charge. Like, they make the decisions, then they get a band manager or a road manager. Surprise, you're not in charge. The manager is in charge.
Yeah.
And then the label. And there's all these, and the investors. Everybody's in charge. That's one of the big things Be Wild learned. We weren't even in control of our lyrics. We had to, when the bigger companies got in, when the big production company got in. And so just be realistic and be flexible and be patient. And I asked my wife this morning, how do you keep a band together? And she said, don't be a jerk.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's a really nice way to wrap up.
Show's over.
I have to run. Yeah. As always, a pleasure, and I learned a lot from you guys. And this is a really, really good episode. So appreciate you all.
Guys, thanks for watching. We're cutting out a little bit earlier today because Jeremy's got some stuff he's got to take care of. We will see you. I will not be here next week. I'm on tour.
I'm out next week also.
Okay, so Rick and Chip and maybe our friend Fred Fisher could do a show.
Well, we'll see what we can line up, folks.
All right, guys. Have a great week.
Thanks, folks.
See you guys.